straight with our first track of the day. The first track is Raise Your Growth, and social and marketing activities, they're so crucial to actually build your personal brand, to build your business. And our topic captain of that track and his team, they know best on how to get forward or to move forward with topics like growth hacking, data analytics, and with that, a very warm welcome to David from Growth Tribe. Hello, David. Hi there. Welcome here on deck, on my stage.
Woohoo! Hello.
It's good having you. From where are you joining us?
I'm in sunny Amsterdam today.
Sunny Amsterdam. Well, it's not that often sunny in Amsterdam, so lucky you. And
yeah, exactly.
David, Raise Your Growth. The stage is all yours.
Thanks a lot. Thanks so much for the intro. Hey, everybody, super excited to be here. I am your, I guess I'm your captain for today. And what we're going to do, we're actually hosting this content-packed and actionable Raise Your Growth track together today, where we're going to be talking about company growth, experimentation, sales, marketing, but also a little bit of product. So you know what? Let's kick things off. I'm actually the first one to be kicking off Raise Your Growth today. My name is David Arnoux. I'm co-founder and I'm currently head of growth at Growth Tribe. And today I want to try to make this as actionable as possible for your first half hour of the track. I'm going to be sharing 10 key learnings from the world of growth. Make it as actionable as possible. It's mostly directed to early, mid-stage products or companies, although many parts of it are actually also a fit for more mature organizations as well. And these apply both to smaller organizations like startup, scale-up, SMEs, but also to much larger ones. A lot of these learnings can be applied at the corporate level. We work a lot, and I work a lot with larger corporates as well. So essentially, we're diving into 10 tips, lessons, mental models as well around rapid experimentation, basically to attract, convert, and retain and delight customers. Also, a little bonus at the end where I'm going to share some of my favorite tools of the moment. I think there's 8 or 9. And you can also get the recording at the end. So just sit back and relax. And last thing, we're sharing a bundle because there's a lot of information in the next 30 minutes, a lot of tools, resources, links, et cetera, templates. We're going to share a bundle with all of you. So a link where you can download that bundle. So I do want you to kind of sit back, relax as much as possible, and just take it in. Keep what you like, discard what you don't like. Okay, that was a long intro. Let's get into it. So I'm still going to bore you with a little bit of intro. I'm going to introduce a little bit of what we do at Growth Tribe and who I am. Then we'll do the bulk of the content around lessons and tips. And then I'll dive you into some next steps. Always nice to have next steps after sort of a talk. So really short intro. At Growth Tribe, we basically help you take your growth marketing, data, or UX career to the next level, you or your organization. So we help individuals, but also companies and teams. And we do that with actionable, fun, practical, live, remote courses. Great return on investment for your time. For example, we do these 6-week and 12-week growth marketing programs or data analytics programs where you're going to learn the ins and outs of actually some of what I'm going to cover today. And it's usually, I call it the best investment that you'll make this year in terms of time investment. We're 6 years old, still quite young. We've trained more than 16,000 people across 900 companies, and we operate sort of globally online. Now, I personally run growth at the moment here at Growth Tribe, and I've coached about 500 plus teams at this point, companies and teams within companies. And I wanted to distill 10 patterns, lessons, mental models with you today, kind of like that power law. What are the 10 things that are probably going to have 90% of the impact? So let's jump into it. By the way, I have 2 to 4 minutes per point, right? It's like half an hour with 10 points. I think I got my maths right. So it's kind of avenues for you to explore and you decide if you want to dive deeper. So let's actually kick things off. We're going to start quite meta. So first off, this is kind of a marketing slash growth slash product pat on the back. Our roles are more important than ever before. More than ever, the riskiest assumption of a business, startup, scale up, but it also for incumbents, for a business unit or a product, truly believe, and I truly see that it's distribution. And I do see this at small, large, and medium-sized organizations, old and new, across the board. Now, why is this, and what am I actually expressing? If you look at a business's business model, it's actually channels and customer relations that are the riskiest assumptions nowadays, or at least in the top two, along with your value proposition. You don't actually need to have the best product to win anymore. I love Guillaume Caban's take on this. For example, HubSpot was not the best CRM out there, right? They had a better distribution and better content marketing strategies. Drift was not the best conversational interface product out there. They just had better engineered marketing. We'll dive into engineered marketing in a bit. Even Slack, you had other great products out there. I used to use HipChat on Atlassian, but Slack had better product-led growth and better growth loops. Our roles in growth are more important than ever before, but also harder than ever. Everyone's building products. You know this, hundreds of new products are landing on Product Hunt, for example, every single day. I mean, just think about it. The barriers to building online in the digital world are smaller than ever. So we're all competing for the same attention economy as all of these new players are on a daily basis on Product Hunt. Or whatever, being released daily. Users, customers, they're being bombarded with options on a daily basis. Anywhere between 4,000 to 10,000 external triggers on a daily basis, depending on how much time they spend online. More cash is flowing into new ventures than ever before, with higher valuation multiples than ever before. This puts extra pressure on marketing and growth functions within startups, SMEs, but also large corporates. More money equals more pressure. At the same time, ad spend has never been higher. Everyone's rushing online, especially during the pandemic. That hasn't helped. What does this lead to? This leads to greater customer acquisition costs, greater cost to retain customers. So to recap, you've got this hyper growth expectations in new ventures that's creating pressures both on these new ventures as well as existing incumbents, existing companies, corporates, etc., to acquire more customers faster, 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 and at a cheaper cost most of the time. So again, distribution and retention are or tend to be our riskiest assumptions. So what do we do about this? Well, I really, truly believe, and we've proven throughout the years, and I feel like I'm repeating this for years now, but it's still not being adopted across the board. The solution is to focus. And yes, I'm like a broken record with this, but the best way to focus is to adopt data-informed decision-making on how to attract and retain those customers. I see again and again a correlation, heck, I'll even call it a causation, between data-informed people, teams, and overall business success. It allows you to find out what works, to validate your gut, if you will, to validate assumptions, and to double down on what works and have less waste. But more importantly, to find out what doesn't work and eliminate what doesn't work. I'm talking about focus. And I know this is obvious for many people, but I can promise you the majority of companies, teams, and individuals still don't do this today. Or they focus on the wrong, sometimes top of the funnel metrics like eyeballs versus engagements, or on CTRs versus conversions. And by the way, this is not an ode to direct marketing, not at all, versus brand marketing, for example. On the contrary, very often, this allows you to validate the power and the importance of working on things like brand. I actually love this case from Adidas. I think it was 4 years ago, Adidas's advertising split was 23% into a brand and 77% into performance. So 23% in brand, 77% into performance. They had an understanding that it was digital advertising, desktop and mobile, that was driving those sales. And as a consequence, they were over-investing in that area. Now, a more precise econometric attribution model showed that the split should have been 60% on brand, 40% on direct. So they just weren't doing their attribution correctly. Once they started taking correct data-informed decisions, they actually flipped that around back to 60-40. Now, how do you start with data. Our favorite approach to data-informed decision-making, the very beginning of it from a customer point of view, is knowing what to track along the customer journey, to map out your customer journey and identify what to measure and where. We like to use and we train people and teams on this funnel called the Pirate funnel. It's also why we love the term growth as opposed to marketing, because it's a full funnel approach to the customer and to the business. And we typically break down the customer journey into awareness, so that's visits, eyeballs to your product or service, acquisition, a first significant interaction, activation, experiencing the wow, I need this in my life moment with a product or service, retention, so being retained on a product or service, retain customers or retain users, then referrals, referring others, building growth loops, viral loops, and finally, revenue, paying customers, upsells, cross-sells, repeat revenue. And usually you segment this by channel and by type of customer. Really the first step to a customer-centric approach to these data-informed decisions. By the way, these steps, they can be jumbled depending on your customer journey and your business model. They don't have to come in this fixed order. So what are your next steps with this, on this journey to becoming more data informed? You can check out this video over here. It's on YouTube, where we go into this step-by-step process. And like I said, I'll also share a bundle with the canvas, with this canvas over here and the steps at the end. That's really helpful. Now, if you're also getting started with data-informed decision-making, I would suggest you pick up a copy of Lean Analytics. They cover different business models in there and the key metrics to track depending on these business models, whether it's marketplace, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's physical products, et cetera, et cetera. This will get you on the right track to setting up the right tools, processes, and mindset. Now, tip number 3, as mentioned before, focus is our competitive advantage. Our scarcest resource is time. Focus is our greatest asset. Once you know what to focus on based on being data informed, which we mentioned in the past, make sure you actually focus on it. And we see this a lot in teams. We actually recommend having, for example, one North Star metric, which is the guiding light of your focus that guides your yearly strategies as a team or as a department. And this is usually linked to company objectives. I've put some examples over here, and can differ based on your business model, your industry, your life cycle. I've put a few examples here, but whether that's revenue, number of customers, or customer retention, you usually have one North Star metric, which you kind of know what it is. Now, where it gets interesting is off of that North Star metric, the tip here is to focus on one, maximum 2 OMTMs. OMTM means the one metric that matters. Per team and per sprint. Focus. 1 OMTM, maybe 2 per team and per sprint. I just think it's too hard to focus on more than 1 or 2 at a time. So you have your North Star metric, but then you also have a specific OMTM to focus on per sprint or per team, usually depending on where your funnel is leaking value, right? That funnel I showed you before. Where are we losing value? Where are we losing money? Where are we losing customers? Whether that's generating traffic, generating leads, retention, activation, or generating more customers. And typically you have a single point of focus called the OMTM during these sprints. And we don't remove that focus until we fixed that part of our funnel, or of our leaky bucket, as we like to call it. The OMTM is where you focus your weekly, bi-weekly efforts. So again, this might sound obvious, but you'd be surprised at how little this actually happens in practice. Strategy, and I think it's really important sometimes to repeat this, strategy is very often knowing what not to do, what not to focus on, rather what to focus on, right? There's this idea of via negativa. We tend to add stuff on and we tend to try to do more, but very often strategy is knowing what not to focus on as opposed to what to actually focus on. Those two are just very, very linked. Now, next up, again, sometimes obvious, might not want to hear it, but it's down to product market fit, right? Do we really have it? Do we still have it? Has it eroded? Can't tell you how many larger organizations have eroded their product market fit on certain products. They just don't want to admit it yet. This will basically, answering this question will determine whether your focus should be on optimizing specific metrics, just like we discussed, or actually on validating or revalidating key business assumptions with regards to desirability of our of our product, to feasibility of actually building and delivering it, and viability, the unit economics. So should I be improving conversion rates and driving more customers to my solution over here, improving retention, activation, shopping cart sizes, or should I actually be validating, revalidating whether people need my solution? Do they still need it? Do they still want it? Will they still pay for it? What if the competitive landscape has changed? And do I know which audiences, which channels and messages to reach them by? Again, very obvious, but so often overlooked. Very often teams, entire companies are pouring gas on extinguished fires, or fires that are being extinguished. There's a really interesting Microsoft use case about this, trying to fix their Windows mobile phone before the iPhone came out, for example. So should I be optimizing metrics or validating key assumptions? Now, product market fit is very much a moving target. It erodes with time. So do I still have it? Do we still have it? There's 3 ways to answer that question. That question, sort of gauge it. First one, when you have it, you'll know. Check out this article by Mark Andreessen. Basically, the way he puts it, if you have product market fit, clients are knocking on your door to get the product. You can't handle the amount of customers fighting to get to your product. I like to compare it to love. It's a bit corny, but when you have it, it's just obvious. Now, second of all is what we call the Sean Ellis test. It's a bit more methodical way to test product market fit. Ask customers, users, how they would feel if they could no longer use your solution or buy your product. How would you feel if you could no longer use our product, or if you could not have bought our product or service? Would you feel very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, not disappointed, don't care, I don't use you anymore? Benchmark, you should get at least 40% of very disappointed. If you don't have PM fit. If you do get above that 40%, you do. Of course, it's a scale. It's not black and white, right? You could be at like 36, 39, whatever, but it's to give you a feeling. If you want to take things to the next level, as very often with data, it's about segmentation. Segment those users. We call it the superhuman approach. Check out this step-by-step guide. You just Google this, to how Superhuman built this engine to finding product market fit with the Sean Ellis test, with some segmentation, and with some rapid user feedback loops. Fantastic resource. And these 3 steps, if you want to verify that product market fit temperature, right? Now, product market fit is very often linked to retention metrics. I would say in 80 or 90% of business cases, business models, retention is the #1 most important KPI or metric that drives the business, whether that's returning customers or retained users. Now, in positions of growth or of product management or any customer-facing roles, or even in financial roles, many marketing roles, I believe you should really develop an intuitive understanding of what retention metrics are. Now, things like daily active users, weekly active users, returning customers, repeat customers, L7 curves, L30 curves. This doesn't apply to all businesses, but for many businesses, people running these teams or inside these teams who should have an intuitive understanding for what I'm sharing on the screen right now. And it's actually much simpler than it all sounds, but you should probably feel these intuitively, have an intuitive understanding of what I'm talking about, especially if you're in a growth function, if you're in a growth engineer function, or if you're in a growth marketing function, a growth hacking function, a head of growth, but also in marketing functions and also in product functions, to be honest. So where do you take it from here? A few resources. You can get started with Amplitude's Mastering Retention Playbook. It's very to the point and really good to get you started. And then you can just stop by the time they are selling their solution too much. But the beginning is really great from an educational point of view. If you want to take things a little bit further, check out this article called The Power User Curve on A16Z's blog. So you can just Google this, the Power User Curve, the best way to understand your most engaged users. And then finally, this, also really nice for all of you who love benchmarks. It's a piece by Lenny Rachitsky, which is called What is Good Retention? And you have across different business models, and across different sort of sectors, not sectors, just models, what are good and great retention benchmarks that you should be aiming for, whether that's consumer social, you see it here, consumer software as a service, mid-market software as a service, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the next point is a bit contentious. In the world of marketing, growth, product, and business in general, people tend to say that silver bullets, magic tricks, secret recipes don't exist. I disagree. I actually think they do. We just suck at identifying them. So I guess you all know the 80-20 rule, the 80-20 power law, right? 20% of criminals commit 80% of the crimes, 20% of clients are going to generate 80% of your revenue, 20% of efforts are going to generate 80% of results. Now, it turns out that this 20-80 rule, 80-20 rule, is actually what we call a fractal law. Fractal means that there's an 80-20 inside the 80-20. So which in turn means that 4% of your efforts are actually going to create 64% of your results. And there's another 80-20 inside that 80-20. 1% of your efforts will generate 50% of your results. And what I call those silver bullets are those 1% of efforts that generate 50% of results, whether it's for generating new customers, retaining customers, creating referral loops, growth loops. I don't care. Whether it's that one piece of content that generates a large proportion of your business, of your new lead acquisition, or that one feature that generates half of user retention. And the question very often is, what is that 1%? And I have no clue. I don't know your business model. I don't know your customer journey. I don't know your company culture. I don't know your context. But in order to find that 1%, you can use this beautiful tool and mindset of experimentation, testing, and especially continuous experimentation. Now, companies like Amazon, we're tired of hearing about them, and space cowboys, like them or love them, they're successful. From a stakeholder, shareholder, and just business point of view. They attribute their success not to visionary geniuses like Coco Chanel or Steve Jobs or something, but humbly to the sheer amount of experiments that they run per year, per month, and per week. That's where the vision is at Amazon, this continuous experimentation. So do the same. There is a correlation between the amount of experimentation. I trust you for the quality, the quantity of experimentation, and your overall likelihood of success. I mean, these teams and companies, they outperform the competition across the board. This is even indexed in something called the Experimenters Index, which is basically creating the S&P 500. And these are well-known, there's well-known companies in there like tech giants, but you also have a lot of less known traditional organizations in there. What you need is to adopt what I'm strongly suggesting is to adopt a mindset and a process of continuous experimentation. Now, we help teams and companies, I think we're at 1,000 companies by now, implement the mindset at scale, and it does work. Now, the mindset takes a bit more than a bit more than a simple link that I can share with you. That part's a bit harder, but for the process, I mean, you can actually start testing it out today. Check out the link I shared previously. The idea is to simply apply the scientific method. It's not complicated. It's to apply the scientific method to almost everything you do and at scale. Now, we call this the growth process. It's a continuous rhythm of gathering ideas, ranking those ideas, outlining experiments for the ideas, executing on those ideas, and then analyzing the data, right? Francis Bacon, 17th century, the scientific method, or Galileo. I think I'm getting my centuries wrong. And we've repackaged it to be more oriented around business and around product and around growth. And of course, it's not as simple as doing this, but start by checking out the video, same link as I shared before, and see if this is something that you might want to implement within your organization. A lot of it has to do with the mindset, and for the mindset, it's about behavioral change, so it's a bit more complicated. And of course, there's ways to do it, but I can't cover that right now. Now, tip number 9 is a tactic. So let's dive into tactics a little bit. It's to apply some engineering to your top of the funnel or to your marketing. Now, remember how I mentioned that it's not always the best product that win, not about best product quality. You need good product quality, but it is really about distribution. This is probably my favorite sort of marketing tactic, tool, or strategy. I won't even call it marketing. I'll call it growth tactic, tool, or strategy. We've seen this work again and again across the board. The idea is to front load your marketing costs into simple, small tools that are engineered, that help the customer, that generate leads and that also build the pain at the same time. They increase the pain of the solution that you've built to solve. The value of these channels compounds over time rather than eroding, similar to compound interest rates in the world of finance. Okay, some examples. Here's an example. Adzuna, it's an online job board. Super competitive marketing landscape, some of the highest cost per clicks out there to generate new business. Should they do AdWords? Should they do, SEO or content? Well, what they did is they created, first they prototyped it without a single developer, a small tool that puts a value on your CV. So you could upload your CV over here or a link to your to your LinkedIn. And then basically it tells you how much you're worth, gives a value on your resume, and enrolls you on one of their sort of email lists to see job alerts based on your CV. Now, what's fantastic here is it's building the pain. It's telling you you're worth more than you think you're worth, but it's also generating all of those resumes on their platform. It works so well that their homepage doesn't even have a value proposition anymore. Just this tool where you can, see what you're worth. Customer acquisition cost for this, super low, right? And it marginally decreases over time since the tool is already built. And I'll let you guess how many weekly resume candidates this actually generates for them. Another cool example, company we trained a while back, I think this one's from like 2-3 years ago, was an online game. They needed traffic for their app. Did they do ads? No. Did they do content marketing? Not really. At the time, Pokemon Go was a huge thing, but it wasn't available everywhere. So they generated a small tool to tell you when Pokemon Go would go live. It was actually a super simple spreadsheet that was updated by hand. No amount of automation over here. And they trended everywhere with this, and they generated very large amounts of traffic for this page. They generated 400,000 leads in 1 week for their platform, and 7,500 sort of signups to their actual game. So you see a lot of traffic, but not so much qualified traffic. But in the end, the volume was interesting because the customer acquisition cost for this was zero or close to zero. Now, if you want to test something like this out, the tools are things like Bubble, Typeform, Extensionizer, or something like Outgrow. If you want to know more about engineered marketing, I'd recommend that you pick up a copy of Traction. And I believe that the chapter on engineered marketing is I think it's chapter 15, if I remember correctly. Tip number 10 is to invest in capabilities. Don't just invest. This should be tip number 1, by the way. Don't just invest in tools, channels, and new strategies. Invest in building skills within your teams and within yourselves. This is how we usually see organizations distribute investments inside the organizations. We spend on tooling, we spend on process optimization, we spend on consultants, strategy, and when we spend on people, we spend on hiring. We underinvest in existing people's mindsets and capabilities across the board. The average person spends less than 24 minutes a week on deliberate learning. Deliberate learning is learning that has a clear goal, time dedication, and clear outcomes that are desired. And it's time boxed. There's time dedication for it, as opposed to on-the-job learning, incidental learning. 25 minutes, that's less than 1% of a typical work week. We live in a knowledge economy. What better investment than knowledge? Yet when we invest in this, we see the ripple effects. You get better strategy, better process, better tooling. Makes sense, right? We are knowledge workers. What greater investment than knowledge? And knowledge, by the way, similar to compound interest rates, it compounds over time. How much time have you or your team spent or invested in deliberate learning this year, this month, or this week? Whatever it is, I'd suggest doubling it. Just do that one small thing, double it, and dedicate time for deliberate learning. You will see the returns in the medium to short term. You can also, of course, come to some of our programs where we distill all of this stuff. So if it's a fit for you, come check out our growth hacking courses, our growth courses, our data analytics courses, where we take everything we've learned and we distill it into 12 sessions. But it really doesn't matter where you spend that time. I mean, the tip here is really to invest in learning more seriously for yourselves. Write down your goals, where your current gaps are, pick a course, a piece of content, whatever it is, and dedicate that time to learning. The best investment you can make in our knowledge economies. The most important part here is the time dedication. Finally, I want to finish off. We've got 3 minutes left. I want to finish off with some five, 6 or 7 favorite tools. Check this out, Usability Hub for really rapid user testing. If you're into B2B lead generation, check out, maze.co if you want to take your user testing to the next level. In love with this tool at the moment. B2B, if you want to guess people's personalities, thanks to their LinkedIn, their disc profile, check out Crystal Knows. It's like personality insights in a box. Phantom Buster for lead generation and automations. And you can pair that with Clearbit and Drop Contact. So this is for B2B lead generation, still the best combination of tools out there. Engineered marketing, check out Outgrow. And then finally, if you want to do some rapid prototyping, please check out Bubble, really cool no-code tool for prototyping if you don't have access to developer resources. And I have one last one to make our calls a lot more exciting, like our video and remote calls, a lot more exciting, really addicted to at the moment. And I believe their CEO's talking at PIRATElive. Now, for your next steps, if you'd like the recording from today's session, please go to grow.ac/PIRATElive and you fill out 2-3 questions about how I did for this little talk, for this little session, and then you get access to the recording and to a bundle where we have all of these sort of templates. The links are shared. I don't know. I think not the recording, but you get all of the templates, the resources, the reading list, et cetera, et cetera. So that's over here at grow.ac/PIRATElive. So please do that and give me a little bit of feedback on this session because it's the first time I deliver it. So please tell me if it was terrible or good and what I can do to improve. I think you're asked to give me a score from 1 to 10. So go ahead and do that. I need these feedback loops, these user feedback loops. Cool. So nice. We kicked off the Raise Your Growth track right now.